Headed to our hotline and talking with Neil Atkinson from Saracen, Arkansas's favorite sports betting app. Want to put a little wager on your favorite sporting event? College football season is here. Have the Saracen app on your phone. If you're an Apple user, download from the App Store. Android users using Google Play. The web browsers all work. BetSaracen.com. Neil, we are within 24 hours from the official kickoff of the college football season. So I guess Saracen, you might say, hallelujah. So will the bettors.
It's like Christmas Eve for me. One of my sayings is that, here in the South, we've got two seasons, college football season and waiting on college football season. And so waiting on college football is officially over tomorrow about 11 o'clock. It's just odd that it's going to be played over in Ireland, but heck, it's college football. It's on TV. It's a ranked team. I'll take it.
That's interesting the way you put it. One of our Tuesday guests, Bill King, says football season never ends. It's just there's the playing portion of the season and there's the non-playing portion of the season. I guess one way that I might put it for a betting app would be there's the prop bet portion of the season, the preseason prop bet portion of the season, and the non-preseason prop bet portion of the season too, because now we actually get to the games and betting lines and everything. So you got all the games that are available tomorrow, right?
Oh, yeah, and we've actually added some of the FCS games on there, because typically in the regular season, the FCS games come out anywhere from 24 to 18 hours before the game. Those, back in the old days, we used to call those the extra board games, and those are usually, what we know now as division, the lower divisions, and now we call it FCS and FBS. But aside from that, if the game's on TV tomorrow, we've got a betting line on it, and hopefully we'll have the live coverage. The live coverage on the first weekend, they have to have actually scouts in the stadium because the NCAA doesn't have official data deals and things of that. So sometimes some things can get a little wonky on that, but I think we'll be in pretty good shape tomorrow. We have already run a lot of the simulations and used prior year's data and things like that to make sure all the parlay calculations are working, all of the in-play stuff is working, the props and all of that stuff. So a lot of fun stuff happening, and it's a great time. I just love seeing real football on the TV. It's hard for me to watch the NFL preseason sometimes, but real football, it's not hard at all.
Yeah, I saw where the Mid-American Conference announced that they will have weekly availability reports. Still haven't had an announcement from the SEC about this, which feels like a surprise. Has the betting industry, or maybe Saracen itself, taken a stance on whether or not the idea of player availability and injury reports is something that you're for or against?
I'm absolutely for it. I'm absolutely for the bettors having as much information that is publicly available at their disposal to make their wagering decisions. Just like me, it's important. I want as much publicly information that I have available to be able to set my lines and my pricing right and manage my risk. So it's a win-win situation for us all. Transparency in our business is good for everybody, not just for one side. So I'm all for that. And, this is just speculation. The NCAA, has been, adversive to like things like college props and data collecting their data officially for use for gambling purposes. With the size of these football conferences, I can envision and see at some point in the future where I think basketball may stay with the NCAA because the NCAA tournament is great. But these bigger football conferences may go out on their own and start doing official data deals because, it all kind of is connected with transfer portal, NIL, and things of that nature. And they're going to try to monetize that because, college football is always saying they need more money, especially on the NIL part. So I see them monetizing as much as they can to bring that into the mix, especially if, these players go on the payroll like some of the recent cases have happened. So they're going to look to pay for that in some form of nature, and I see possibly official data deals and things like injury reports and standardizing all of that as a part of that, making that successful.
See, now I wonder what would happen once the playoff arrives, because the conference is the ones that are making the decisions on whether or not there will be availability reports. And I don't know if that has anything to do with the college football playoff, which is its own entity. And I know that the conferences are, they're the ones who own it. But I would assume that if each of the conferences that is part of the playoff decide to do availability reports, you have to do that for the playoff games, the ones that matter most. And nobody's brought that up yet either.
Yeah, that's a very, very important point. If one team's mandated to do something the other team doesn't have to do, that creates an inequity. Or, it's like having inside information and non-public information. So hopefully they don't set us up for a situation like that. But like you said, that will have to be addressed if a conference has an official policy to release that. And, of course, what happens when we have these non-conference games during the regular season? That's going to have to be sorted out too. So it's going to be interesting. But like I said, my thing is as much information that you can get out there that both sides have access to. You may have to know where to go look for it, but as long as it's out there and both sides have access to it, and I'm sure there'll be aggregators and news aggregators out there that will consolidate these reports. But it's just another data point that we'll be able to put in our modeling and get better lines as far as being able to justify it. But, what happens in a computer simulation is not always what happens on the field of play.
I know that you guys have had early odds on Arkansas against some of the teams they're playing early in the season. Auburn, A&M.
Right.
I don't know if I'd seen an Oklahoma State line yet. Now I know the first line that we see was what was it, 52.5 against UAPB, and my eyes got really wide. I saw it's 49.5 right now. Has the largeness of this betting line kept any bettors away, or are they still on top of the first game of the year?
Well, no, the money's starting to come in because that line has been as high as 52.5. And it has been low as 47.5 over the past 4 days. So now the money is starting to come in, and I think people were waiting for what was coming, news coming out of press conferences and training camps and things of that nature. I think people are waiting for that, and some people are seeing an opportunity. With the line going down to 47.5, that meant a lot of people were putting more money on Arkansas Pine Bluff and Arkansas not to cover. But then and then over the next day or so, I guess the people with the other opinion say, "Whoa, that line's going down. I'm gonna put some money on Razorback." Whether that's local bias or people, sticking by the original data models when the line came out at 52.5, it could be a little bit of that. But I expect that line to wobble back and forth between 47 and where it is at 50 right now. Many times between now and next Thursday. But that's always typical with the first game of the season. And it's unusual being that Arkansas is playing Arkansas Pine Bluff. Usually this line would not be out until 24 hours in advance. But because it's the first game of the season, we went ahead and put it out there. One is the betting public demands it's out there. And so we rely a little bit more on the geeky math modeling and the hit probability to set these lines. And now that it's out there to be bet, the public is dictating where it goes.
So where does that leave the Oklahoma State game? Are there odds on that yet, or do you wait until the UAPB game is over?
Yeah. Now on the major matchups, like notice all the Arkansas games that we had out were all SEC games.
Okay.
And those are hit probabilities just based on math modeling right there. Before we put out cross conference opponents and things like that, we want to see what they do on the field next Thursday before we put the Oklahoma State line out. You don't know if there's going to be injuries. Right now there's just so many unknowns for us, the bookmakers, on how they're going to perform on their first outing. So we like to put our lines out when we have the most information out as much as possible. And that's why you see all of the first, the NFL, you've got all of week one lines already out, and they've been out for some time now. Whereas college, they kind of trickle out based on when the modeling and the simulations are done, and we're comfortable with hanging a line on it and seeing what the betting public does with it.
Hey, Neil, has there been any movement over the last week about the online sweepstakes and raffles, which, of course, got everybody interested in the idea of the 50-50 raffle that Saracen wants to do, but Oaklawn seems to be in the way about this. There been any movement about it over the last 7 days?
I think all of the positioning and the talking is all happening in the background. On the 50-50 raffle, because I'm on the sports betting side, and the sports betting engine that handles all the bets is a different engine that would handle the games of chance and all of that. What's the same about it is the back end of the system with things like the age verification, verifying your identity, all the account protections, the data protections, passwords, all of the stuff that the back end and the stuff that most of the customers don't see, that we're regulated to have as far as time stamping each transaction, logging all of that, making sure the math models are right. The back end of the system's the same, but the sports book is a completely different thing than casino gambling. So I'm still, with the noise that is out there, I am still very, very confident that this is all going to line up, hopefully in the next scheduled meeting of the Arkansas Racing Commission. But I'm going to leave it to the lawyers and the political pundits to do most of that. I think our position is pretty much clear that when you combine the illegal gambling aspect of it, so if we get legalized, that will allow us to do things like the NIL drawing in a perfectly regulated site. So, however it turns out, we're ready for it. And like I said, it sure would be nice to be doing our first drawing next Thursday. We're not going to be able to do it because, we've got to let the dust settle and let the politicians and the racing commissions and all of them come to the conclusion of it. And we are still very highly but cautiously optimistic that this will happen sooner than later, and hopefully before the end of football season. But we'll just have to see on how it plays out. But like I said, there's a high degree of confidence there, and that our position is a good one. And we'll see what it says. I mean, all I could do is gauge the public opinion from what I've seen on the comments. The huge uptick in people signing up for Bet Saracen during the middle of the week when no games are going on. I think the public is having their say into that, and hopefully we can get everybody on the same page and get some enabling rules put into place so we can take the lid off and do what we say we're going to do, just not for the NIL, but to also bring the illegal internet gambling to the daylight and have it regulated, just like our physical casino properties are regulated.
Hey, Neil, last thing, we got a text from Pinto. You remember the last time Arkansas and UAPB played, there was a running clock in the second half. And Pinto wants to know, if that happens, does that affect anybody's bets? Because it's, then the clock is moving and it's a little tougher to cover that kind of a spread.
Yeah, that may have to be, I think that could have been, I'm not quite sure I understand the context on that. We will go by the official game clock, which the clock that is shown in the stadium. Usually whenever they're having a problem with that, they just shut that visible clock off in the stadium, and then the referees are taking care of the time management on all of that. So hopefully we don't encounter anything like that. But again, we will grade everything to the official. The data and the official stats that the university puts out after the game. So we will grade everything there. If for some reason we cannot grade something, we would void the market instead of making a loss.
What Pinto was getting at was that the moving clock was the clock never stopped in the second half. Incompletions, anything. The clock was always moving, so that was less time Yeah, the running clock. I call it a moving clock. I should call it a running clock.
Okay, yeah, and because they changed the rules on the clock, and then they made it more like the NFL with the 2-minute warning at the end of the half and all of that. So that is already figured into our modeling. That the way the clock is managed and those rule changes, all of that is factored into our modeling and on our pricing. And of course, we adjust that as the season goes. There's a lot of prediction that there's going to be a lot more scoring in the games this year because of the iPads and because of the communication in the helmets. And so we're going to look and see, we won't have a huge sample with just the games that we've got Saturday, but Labor Day weekend, we may do some modeling adjustment on totals and over and unders if it has the impact that is predicted with the iPads and the communication on field that we have this year.
Sounds good. Neil, appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. Enjoy the first weekend of football, and we'll visit again on Friday.
All right, looking forward to it. Hope we're talking about a big win, and hopefully I'm not paying out too awfully much money next Thursday night. But if we do, hey, that's just part of doing business when you're in the sports betting business.
It's Neil Atkinson, Bet Saracen. It is Arkansas's favorite sports betting app.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.